Let's start with number one, Patrick Mahomes. In my opinion, the undisputed number one best quarterback in the NFL. 3 Super Bowls in the last 4 or 5 years. He has been absolutely excellent. There is nobody that can beat this man on a consistent basis in the postseason when it matters most. The regular season numbers don't matter as much anymore. He has proven he loses his wide receiver one, Tyreek Hill, goes on the next season to win the Super Bowl and win the MVP. Last season, very shaky start to the year. His defense was excellent, but the offense wasn't humming, was dealing with drops, was dealing with a Travis Kelce who, for whatever reason, wasn't playing his best football and wasn't being the best version of himself, quite frankly, early on in the year. In the end, it didn't matter. Wins another Lombardi trophy. It is him and Tom Brady at the very top of this thing all time. I don't think there's a debate about it anymore. To me, I shouldn't even have to discuss it, but somebody asked me why Patrick Mahomes is number one in this list. Number 2, Josh Allen. So Josh Allen and then followed by Lamar Jackson. That's going to be the conversation a lot of people get upset about. I agree that Lamar Jackson is a one-of-one talent at the quarterback position, but postseason matters to me. Postseason is a decent part of this equation and of this conversation. And in my opinion, Josh Allen is not perfect in the postseason, but he's not bad. He's 5-5, has a 500 record in the postseason. And to me, he's had moments where he's been really good. He's been okay. He's been relatively mediocre. Like, he hasn't had total meltdowns. He's 5-5 in the postseason. Lamar Jackson, 2 MVPs, the better regular season player. Some might argue the better quarterback, or at least the better quarterback talent, but he's also 2-4 in the playoffs. And I personally don't love that. I don't think it's a good look for Lamar. I think he will have a chance to improve. But I'm at the same point with Lamar that I am with Dak Prescott. Obviously, Dak Prescott much lower on my list, in my opinion. But it's like, you look at the regular season, I no longer care about the regular season in regards to Lamar Jackson. I know he's a superstar athlete. I know he has an insane win percentage in the regular season. I want to see you do it in the postseason. What can you prove to me? Are you that guy? Can you beat a Josh Allen in the postseason? Can you beat a Patrick Mahomes? Can you beat a Joe Burrow? He has yet to prove that. He has yet to make it to the big game, and because of that, I'm going to put him at 3, just below Josh Allen. I don't think that's super disrespectful, but with the postseason being a decent part of this conversation and equation, I think Josh Allen with a 5-5 postseason record is better than Lamar Jackson with a 2-4 postseason record. Moving on to number 4 on our list, Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow has missed a lot of time. You cannot mention Joe Burrow without mentioning his injuries and the amount of time that he has missed. With that being said, Joe Burrow did make it to a Super Bowl in his first full year as a starter, his second year in the NFL. That counts for something. That means something. Joe Burrow is also one of only 2 starting quarterbacks, or one of only 2 quarterbacks in the NFL to beat Patrick Mahomes in the postseason. The other is Tom Brady. So at this point, Joe Burrow is the only quarterback actively in the NFL that has beaten Patrick Mahomes in the postseason. That means something. So I know Joe has missed more time than we're comfortable with. If he misses more time this year, I'm going to definitely be worried about him. With that being said, he has already proven he made it to a Super Bowl. He's one of the better quarterbacks in this league. Is he 1 or 2? No. But is he 4? I think that's pretty respectful. Number 5, CJ Stroud. In my opinion, CJ Stroud had an amazing, literally could not have had a better first year. Got a playoff win, looked very good in both playoff appearances, did not ever melt down, threw the ball so well, was clearly the perfect fit for a developing situation in Houston with DeMeco Ryan and with that offensive personnel, and he hit quicker than we thought he would. He already has a playoff win. That's why I put him above Justin Herbert. I'm a big fan of Justin Herbert, but CJ Stroud already did in 1 year what Justin Herbert hasn't been able to. With that being said, Justin Herbert next on this list. I had a lot of pushback last week when I previewed this list. Ben, why is Justin Herbert top 6? Why is he even in the top 10 conversation? We have to slow down. I understand. I'll be the first to admit I'm not running away from it. Justin Herbert does not have a great postseason history, right? Has one appearance and really a team meltdown in the second half against the Jaguars that resulted in him having 0 playoff wins. With that being said, I think when you are objective, and if you were to ask general managers in the league and you were to pose this situation, hey guys, we are redrafting the entirety of the league at the quarterback position, GMs are going to take Justin Herbert within the top 10. I think they're taking him for sure within the top 8. I would assume 50-50 chance they take him within the top 5 or 6. I think Justin Herbert is an incredible talent that was held back by a really incompetent head coach. That's undeniable, and Brandon Staley, who we were sold They sold us, the Chargers organization, as him being this really smart, really wise, football IQ-driven guy, a modern analytics-driven guy coming from the Kyle Shanahan coaching tree. Kyle Shanahan, who is one of the brightest young minds in the NFL, clearly the football IQ didn't rub off there. Brandon Staley was one of the worst situational football coaches I've seen in my lifetime, which is not saying much in 20 years on this planet, but it is saying something. I think he held them back. I think so many collapses could be blamed on Brandon Staley last season. I also think that GM-wise, they didn't do a horrible job of signing guys, but Tom Telesco, like I said, I've said this before, not the worst GM in the league, but certainly not the best. Overpaid, aging defensive talent, wasn't necessarily doing everything they could to give Justin Herbert the best weapons or the best protection or the best head coach to help him run this team. I think Justin Herbert now, with another year in LA, I don't think it's a composure thing. I think more than anything, it's a head coaching thing. I think Jim Harbaugh, coming off a national championship, a very impressive head coach who's a hard-nosed, old-school football coach who's going to make sure this team is built in the trenches. He's going to add a layer of toughness. He's going to get the best out of Justin Herbert, and he's also going to show the rest of the league, hey, we're going to try to do with Justin Herbert what the Chiefs have done with Mahomes. Andy Reid knows that Mahomes can win him any single game on any given Sunday in the biggest moment possible, but do you want that to be the case? Wouldn't you prefer if you could put it more on the defense, more in the run game, more on the guys in the trenches? Don't just put it and leave the entire burden in the hands of one guy. Andy Reid and the Chiefs and Mahomes has accepted that role, and they've done a good job of it in recent years. I think Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers are going to look to do the same with a superstar quarterback talent. I'm moving on to number 6 at this point. Or we just went over Justin Herbert, number 6. Let's go to 7, Jalen Hurts. Now, I know people are upset about this. Jalen Hurts, in my opinion, not a great season last year, right? They collapsed in the second half as a team at the second half of last season. I think that's more so to blame on Nick Sirianni than it is on Jalen Hurts' leadership. Jalen Hurts did make it to a Super Bowl. That should count for something. Was the OC for the Eagles, who is the current head coach of the Colts, and Shane Steichen, was he more responsible for Jalen Hurts' success and boom than maybe we gave him credit for? Absolutely. I said that before last season started. I wasn't running away from that. But making it to a Super Bowl as a quarterback and performing as well as Jalen Hurts did should count for something. For that reason, I know it wasn't the best season last year to follow up a Super Bowl appearance with, but Jalen Hurts is still 7 in my opinion. Number 8, the guy who's in all the headlines as of this morning, makes his appearance on this list. Jordan Love. Jordan Love in his first full season was not pretty at the first 2-3 games, but in the second half of the last season, I just think he totally grew into his own and became exactly what we believed Jordan Love could become, best case scenario in the NFL. Had a really good postseason performance, went into Dallas as an underdog with one of the youngest teams in NFL postseason history in recent years, certainly in my lifetime, and blew the doors off of an absolutely loaded Dallas Cowboys roster. Totally overwhelmed them, totally made their presence known. It starts with leadership. It starts at the top. For that reason, I think Jordan Love is already one of the top 10 best quarterbacks in the league. I'm going to put him at number 8. Number 9, I would go Matt Stafford. Number 10, I would go Brock Purdy. Now, for those of you in the comments, I want to start reading these comments now. What is it that you guys think is the problem here with this list? I want to see what the TikTok chat thinks. I know you guys aren't a fan of this whole list. Purdy above Goff is crazy. Purdy made it to a Super Bowl more recently. I think Goff's a better thrower of the football, but right now, in my opinion, Brock Purdy has proven more as of more recent. Stafford over Herbert? I don't think so. I think age kind of negates that. Dak over Herbert? Okay. So some of these are getting a little ridiculous. Purdy over Goff? So Purdy over Goff, people have a problem with that. I'm totally willing to admit when I'm wrong, and the more I think about it, I might end up putting Jared Goff at 10. This list is not final. So I appreciate the input here. Jared Goff, 5-4 record in the playoffs, made it to a Super Bowl. I don't think JJ is starting for the Vikings. Exactly why he's so far down at 31. Wins aren't a quarterback stat. So I've heard this a billion times. Last thing we're going to say here on this top 10 quarterbacks list on YouTube, top 32 on TikTok. For the people who say wins are not a quarterback stat, then tell me why the best quarterbacks always seem to have a winning record. Like that to me is such a flawed. I'm not saying that they deserve all the respect and all the credit and all the blame, But come on, the starting quarterback in 2024 in the NFL, with the way the rules are written, have a lot to do with the success of your team. And usually a good quarterback or a great quarterback has a great win percentage. Lamar Jackson has a great winning percentage. Patrick Mahomes has a great winning percentage. Like, come on. That's a little bit of a flawed argument, wins not being a quarterback stat. This is not for fantasy football, by the way. This is actual quarterback rankings, so that you don't get confused. You can still disagree with me, but I want to make sure we have the context right. This is top 32 quarterbacks in the NFL strictly, not fantasy football-wise. Obviously, if this was fantasy football, rushing upside would flip this thing on its head. Anthony Richardson would probably already be in the top 10 in fantasy. With that being said, let's move on.